So welcome everyone. Again, this is Tom Doran with ABC Computers. Today I'm joined by Ron Summers. Ron's with Pivotier, which is a division of Jet Reports. Ron is going to take us through the product, answer some questions, show you some great features that we think make this a very strong reporting solution for NAV users. And so at this point I'm going to turn it over to Ron, and Ron, take us away.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm really excited about what we have to show you today. So to start out, just introduce myself. My name is Ron Summers. I'm with Jet Reports. I'm actually the Director of SQL Reporting Solutions at Jet. If you see my first slide there, it does say Jet SSRS, which is the same thing as Jet Pivotier. Just to let everybody know, we're actually looking at rebranding Pivotier to Jet SSRS, primarily because SSRS stands for SQL Server Reporting Services, and it explains a little better what the product does and how it works. So just so you know, my slides will say Jet SSRS because that's the new rebranding slides we got, but in the product it'll still say Pivotier as we're finishing out that. I like to be very open about what we do today. So if anybody has any questions or anything, be sure to ask questions. I believe Tom will be monitoring those. He can stop and say, hey, we want to see that part again. Can we look at that? Be more than happy to go ahead and stop and look further in depth with what we have to offer for you. So I plan on taking about, looks like about 45 minutes to show you the product. I want to leave 10 to 15 minutes at the very end just open for any questions. If there's any additional pieces that you'd like me to show or anything, I'd be more than happy to do that. So in today's demo, we're going to get a high-level overview of what the Pivotier product is, what it does, how it works, and it's staying high level. And if you wish to have more details, please talk to Tom and the folks there, and they will be able to answer any questions for you, and we'll step in and help out in any way that we need to. Okay, so here's just a quick agenda with what we'll be looking at today. First off, we're going to talk about what the requirements and the technology are to run Pivotier. We're going to talk about what it takes to implement it. We'll look at what the product line is, the different breakouts of the product there, and then we're going to get in and spend the bulk of the time right on the demo part. Talk briefly about how we price, and then get into the question and answer period. So first off, to run Jet Pivotier or Jet SSRS, these are the requirements. Main requirements in red there. You have to be running SQL Server, so no Seaside database. It has to be a SQL Server database. We support, as you see, version 2005 and above. And the version of Dynamics NAV will be version 5 and above. We support all those clients. We have the ability to run on any of these clients. In 2009, we support both the Classic and the Rotator client. SSRS, which stands for SQL Server Reporting Services, is an optional piece that can be configured, and Pivotier will use it if you have it configured, but it is not required to run any of these reports that we're seeing today. There is one part that I'll talk about when we go to the web viewer that is required for to use, but I'll talk about that. This is where SSRS is required, but just to run the basic functionality and reports, you don't have to worry about that. So let's just talk briefly how what the technology is involved when we run a Jet SSRS report. We have all our data here in SQL Server, and so what happens there is we have a query in the middle that issues a transact SQL statement to SQL, selects the data out, and then the output comes right out. And there's all these different areas we can take this output to. We can take it out to SQL Server Reporting Services, right into use it with inside of NAV, inside of SQL or any other Transact SQL compliant software. So there's a lot of different things we can do. We're not going to get too in depth in this, and we'll see a lot of these features as we go through today. What does it take to implement Jet SSRS in your database today? Typically, installation takes 1 to 2 hours per database. We license per database, so this is a per database thing. So a couple of simple steps to implement. You just import some base and NAV objects into your database. You run some data ports or XML ports if you're on 2013 to import the setup data. And then you install the client on each machine that will need to run the Jet SSRS client. Now, that's all it takes to implement. Usually you can do that in, typically when I do an install, it's under an hour on the database. Then it's all installed, using running reports, everything is good to go. Training varies by client. Typically we'll train anywhere from 2 to 8 hours. 2 hours just to get the generic, here's how you use it, here's how it looks and everything. Up to 8 hours to go very in-depth training. If you want more advanced training, stuff like that. We've had a lot of users to take just the very basic training, and then they build upon the rest themselves as they go along. We have a whole bunch of web training videos that's all pre-recorded and everything for you, so you can just do those at your own pace. So the product is broke out into these 3 areas. We'll see the biz product, which is the ad hoc and the financial piece, which we'll look at. This is geared towards the non-IT and financial users, so someone that's not an IT that doesn't, not like a typical developer. We have the IT piece, which is for developers and the IT staff within the organization to be able to write very detailed reports. And then we've got the web piece, which allows you to publish these reports out to the web, and that's where SQL Server Reporting Services is required. We're going to take a look at all 3 of these products today. All right, so without too much time spending on slides, we're going to jump right over into the product and go ahead and take a look. So first off, we want to talk about what version Pivotier is available in, and it is in version that says from 5.0 and above. I'm going to do the bulk of my demo in the 2009 role-tailored client. Okay, but I just want to show you it is also available in 2013. This is the 2013 client. I can still come down in here and we'll see the Pivotier option with all the reports. So all these reports that we're going to run today and stuff is still active in the 2013 client, still runs, everything works great. But we're going to do our demo today in the 2009 role-tailored client. But just so you know, everything we do today, we can still go clear back to the classic client here, and I still have all these reports, and I can still go back to even a 5.0 database and do everything we're going to see today. And what's great about if you're still running, say, a version 5 and haven't upgraded yet, you can install Pivotier today, write all these Pivotier reports, and everything works great. And then when you upgrade, you can take a Pivotier report straight from version 5 all the way to 2013, and you do not have to rewrite that report. That conversion just automatically happens, and there's really no conversion. The reports just go straight over. It's data in the table, and there's no rewriting of a report or anything. It's a great conversion. All right, so as you see, when you install Pivotier, it is embedded inside the user interface. So it's a reporting tool embedded inside the user interface. You don't have to go external to get to it. We have another part right here that can be on the user's role center page. This will allow you, it'll show all the reports that the user has access to, or we can come down to the Pivotier menu option and we'll see all the different reports that we have here. Where we're going to start out today is looking at an ad hoc report, and I'm going to go over just high level the design of an ad hoc report, and we'll take a look on how this report is designed. So if I look at this customer listing report that we have, it's just a demo report. This is what the report design looks like. Okay, so we're going to go over high level what the report design is. So when I set up a report, I basically come in here and say, okay, I'm going to run a customer listing report. Category is just to categorize it, which to group all your reports, all your AR reports together, your purchase and sales reports, however you want to categorize that. The big thing here is picking which query this will come from. There's a whole bunch of predefined Pivotier queries. You can go ahead and add to these queries. You know, if we get a second, we'll take a look at what these queries consist of. But we're basically just pulling customer information today. And then down here, we're listing out all the different fields that we want to see in our particular report. So if we look here, we're we're putting the salesperson name on here, and we're putting some customer information. And if we scroll down, we see some of this information, and then we see a formula field. We have the ability to put calculated fields on any of the reports. So if we look at the calculation here, we're basically saying, okay, take the credit limit and subtract out the balance to give me what the available credit is for this particular customer. Okay, filters. We can apply any sort of filters. Right now I'm just saying I only want customers that have a balance, so not equal to 0. We respect all of the standard NAV filters here. What's great about this available credit formula, it's a formula on this report, but we can also filter on it. I can say I only want to see people whose available credit is less than 0. By doing that, we're able to even filter on those calculated fields. I'm going to take that off for now. Okay, we'll talk about this sum function in just a minute, and then we've got the currency formatting, and the rest of these are for basic formatting over here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and run this report. I'm going to uncheck these options real quick because I want to show you the basic definition of the report. One thing we didn't look at real quick that we'll show here is putting out a bar chart up here. We're putting a bar charting the credit limit against the balance, and we're getting the top 10 customers right here. Okay, so that puts a bar chart up. So if we go ahead and publish this report, and we're going to take it to the viewer. Okay, here is our our basic report definition we had. Here's all the columns we put out there. Okay, here's our available credit. Okay, we're taking the balance minus, the credit limit minus the balance, and that's why a lot of these are negatives because they do not have credit limits. And then here's our bar chart up top, which charts the credit limit against the balance. Okay, it's a pretty basic report, but there's also actually a lot going on here. So the reason I ran this report is because I want to show you that we have grouping here. We're subtotaling by salesperson. Okay, so we got net sale, Deborah's here, and if we go to the next page, we'll see how we have John Roberts totaled, and then our other salesperson. Now, let's look at how that grouping was achieved. So we can come back here, and there is a page sort and group area, and if we look, we've said, okay, we want to sort first by salesperson, first by salesperson, then by balance. Okay, because we put the totals right here in the footer, that means we want footers every time the salesperson changes. Okay, so that'll give us a group footer. And what happens in the group footer is related to this function column over here. Because this has sum in this column, so we will sum the credit limit, sum the balance, and sum the available credit. Okay, there's all sorts of things we can do in this function column, and here's the different things we can do. We can sum the values, get the minimum value, max value, average value, count how many records exist in that grouping, how many distinct combinations exist. Row is for the row formula calculation, and group just says I want to put this last value up at the group level. So that's how we would get the grouping, and then these other fields right here are related to that grouping. Okay, hide detail will collapse everything down at the group level, and then the show plus will allow us to expand and collapse that detail, and then we want a grand total on the bottom of the report. So now if we go and republish this report by checking those few boxes, notice how everything's summarized by salesperson right now. So what I can do now is I do have the expand and collapse. John Roberts has a lot of customers here, and so I can see his totals here. We can say what's going on with John Roberts' customers. I can expand out and drill down and see the detail that belongs to John Roberts. Okay, so that's the expand and collapse feature, and we have that ability to see that. All right, I'm going to come back to this report, this page. This is the filter page, so as you run the report, you can apply additional filters. Okay, the main thing I want to take a look at is up here, up top, there's a lot of different options on output options for the report. We've been going to the viewer with each one of these, but I want to show you that we can take it straight to an email, which will create a PDF of this report and stick it in an email document for us, create a PDF of the report, take it to Excel, Word, or publish it to reporting services. We're going to show you what this report definition looks like in Excel. So I can click the Excel option, and it's going to ask me to give it a Excel document name. We'll give it one. All right, so we'll bring this over here, and we now see this report definition. Now the export was straight into Excel. We still have the expand collapse maintained, so I can still see all the details that belong with that. We get the chart out here, and the subtotaling and everything happened in Excel. So if you want your output to be Excel, we can take it right to Excel and have no problem with that. Okay, let's look at another option. Okay, the SSRS option. Okay, so SQL Server Reporting Services. So if you want to use the SSRS option, you will then have to publish. You'll have to set up SQL Server Reporting Services. Okay, so I've already have that set up, and what SQL Server Reporting Services looks like when it's set up is this right here. I've got a bunch of folders and stuff set up out here. I don't have any reports in the done folder. Okay, and so let's go back to that report right here, and let's say I want to send this report out to SSRS. And I'm going to send it out to the done folder. Okay, so as soon as I click my folder and I say OK, what it's doing is it is publishing that report definition out to reporting services for me. So I say OK there, and now we come back and we go into that done folder. Now look, I have my customer listing report. I can go ahead and I click on and run that report. It runs it real time. Okay, I've still got the whole report definition with all the features and everything that I had out there before. And what is great about this option is the ability to come into this report and set up a subscription. So I can set up a new subscription on this and say, okay, I want you to email this to Ron at jetreports.com. Okay, and it's going to give me a default subject, and it's going to email me every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Okay. Okay, so I just set up a subscription, so now every Monday morning at 8 a.m. it will send me an updated copy of the customer balance report. So I can look at all my customers and say, hey, you know, we need to do some collections or something. We got some with a lot of high balances. Okay, so this is a great subscription engine. It all happens through the SQL Server Reporting Services engine, but Pivotier allows you to publish these out in an easy manner here. All right, so that's the SSRS option. We're not going to go through the Word, email, and PDF ones because those are just an email, a Word doc, and a PDF document. Very similar to what we've seen before on the other ones. Okay, the great thing about ad hoc reports is the ability to report against any table, any field in your system. So whether it's a base table or something that has been added onto by your partner or something, Pivotier can see those tables and field definition and report off of them. You as a user do not have to care what type of field it is, if it's a flow field or any other types of calculated fields or anything. Pivotier will just pick up and allow you to report off of it. Okay, so that's basic ad hoc. What we're going to do is we're going to jump back and we are going to take a look at financial reports. Okay. Financial reports are really exciting. It's a quick and easy way to get financials out of your system. So we're going to look at the definition of a financial report. So if I bring this up here, this is what a financial report definition looks like. All financial reports are purely just GL-based reports. So all we're looking at is GL reporting. You don't have to pick a query or anything because we already know we're going against our GL data. Okay. So up top, if we follow this down, how we set up a financial report is we set up this one called income statement. The revenue expense type report, categorizing in finance, and the date range. What is the current context in which we're going to run this report? We're going to run it in context of our current fiscal year. Okay. What types of columns do we want to see on the report? I'm going to uncheck the budget for just a minute. So to start out, all we want to see is one column for each fiscal quarter, and so we'll get 4 columns based on our fiscal year, and then I've got totals checked over here, so that'll give me a 5th column. That'll give me a total for the whole year. Okay. Down below here, what we're doing is we're picking off what GL accounts we want to see on our report. And we're going to pick our 40,000 through 99,000. These are my revenue and expense accounts on my report, and they will make up my row definition. Okay, and that's pretty much it. There is some setup options. Additional setup options I've applied here, like zero suppress rows, meaning if every row has every field in the row has a 0 on it, we want to suppress it, and we want to exclude closing entries. Okay, if we go across fiscal years, obviously we want to exclude closing entries so we get a proper income statement. So let's go ahead and run this report. It defaults. My current work date is a 2011 year. It defaults to that. I'm going to drop this back to 2010 because that's where my test data is. And we go to the viewer. So it's building the financial report for us. Okay. All the formatting for this particular one came right off the chart of accounts. It used the begin totals, end totals, indentation, everything for that. And it gave me one column for each quarter. Okay, this is the first quarter, second, third, fourth, and then the total that went across the whole year for me. Okay, so it comes straight all the way down, and we see all this information. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. Now, let's look at some of the features we can do within the column layouts. Okay, so now with a simple click, I can now show me what I budgeted and the variance off of that budget. Okay, so that's all I did is click those two options. We're going to republish this one. Okay, so we took that simple 5-column report. It's going to turn into a 15-column report. Okay, so now we have there's our first quarter actual, there's our first quarter budget, then the variance off of that budget. Second quarter actual budget and the variance off of that budget, all the way across until we see the totals. Okay, that's pretty slick, pretty nice, pretty easy. What's great is the ability, a lot of people really like, remember the Excel option? Let's take this straight into an Excel document where it makes it easy to see all our numbers and have all our information right there. These ones need just a hair wider for the columns. Okay, so there it is, all our finance data right in Excel. Pretty easy to use, pretty easy to manipulate. Do what we need to do with it as well. All right, so let's look at some of the other cool things we can do within financial reports. Okay. So the next question a lot of times I get asked is the user says, well, that's great, you come off your chart of accounts, but what if my chart of accounts does not have the grouping and the setup as how I want to report? So typically within NAV, you would create an account schedule. Okay. So within Pivotier, we put in support for account schedules. So if we look at this setup, this is very similar to the setup we just had. The only difference is on our rows right here, we said, okay, I want to use an account schedule and use my income account schedule to make up my row definition. So now we can rerun this report and have it very similar like the first one we ran, that ran it by fiscal quarter. The row definition looks a lot different, because we're using the row definition now from an account schedule. Okay, so if you have account schedule set up that already have your row definitions for you, well, that's great because Pivotier will go ahead and just leverage those for you. Okay, and where the power becomes in this, a lot of people will say, hey, wait, well, I already use account schedules and I can print them. A couple main things. The ability to take them straight to Excel is nice and easy. The ability to publish them to reporting services so then a user can get at them through a web browser. And third is you have a column limitation within account schedules. I believe the column limitation is 10 unless you've had a modification done. The column limitation is 10. Within Pivotier, I usually say there's not a column limitation, but I hit one once, and I think it was like 250 columns. So rarely will you see a report that has more than 250 columns, but I did hit that limitation in running some testing. And so you can use row layouts, and then these are Pivotier column definitions. Okay, let's say one of these Pivotier combinations does not meet what you want to see in a column layout, and that's where you change the column type to say, okay, I want to use a column layout. So an account schedule column layout, you can use that, and then you can say, I want to use this balance only column layout, And now if I go ahead and publish this for 2010, I've got a test column in here. But what you will see is now it's using a column layout to calculate what these amounts are going to be. So you can do a column layout that has dimension filters, or row layouts that has additional dimension filters, and be able to dump all these reports out in a quick and easy manner. The viewer is very great, very interactive. We can do searching with it. We can take it straight to Excel, PDF, all that, which we've seen. All right, so if we look at some of the other features within the financial side that's pretty powerful, is the ability to take your report and use dimensions. Okay, dimensions are very important within financials and NAV. So let's talk about dimensions. So we're going to run an expense by department report. Okay, we're going to run it again for our fiscal year, but look at my column type is now different. We're saying we want a column to be a dimension value. And we will use the department dimension right here. Okay, so now we can apply a filter here to pick which departments we want to see on the report. Or if we leave it blank, it'll give us all departments. So let me show you what this report looks like when we take our columns as a dimension. Okay, so now look, we still have our rows coming from the GL accounts, or we can have the rows come from an account schedule. And then we've got our columns coming across, our departments. So we have an actual dimension. Pivotier will take, and it knows which dimensions are blank. So this is where that's where no department was used. Okay, this is all our administration expenses, all our production expenses, sales expenses, and then it totals them for us. Okay, so you can use any dimension and have it define your columns for you. Okay. The other thing we can do is start going across companies. Okay, so we have this consolidating income statement. This income statement is actually, this is just expenses. I just got expenses here. But we can take that company and use it just like a dimension. We treat company just like a dimension. So if we run this one, it's very similar to that expense report, but we ran it as, we ran it as department as columns. Now we're using companies as columns. I don't have data in my Mexico company, but as you can see, we've got the Canada information. Here's Mexico, here's the USA, and then we're totaling across those three companies. Okay. So we can take and use a company as any dimension as well. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about within the financial piece is we are going to talk about paging. Okay, there's lots of different things we can page. We're going to talk about paging by company. Okay, but you can also page by department and stuff like that. Remember, we use dimensions and companies very similar. Okay, so this is just like that first income statement we ran. The only difference is I've added one more row here. As we can see, we've added a type company. We've added a paging level of 1, meaning it's a first paging break, or first page break. You can add up to 3 levels of page breaking. So we first want a page break on company. Okay, so if we go ahead and run this report, I've already got 2010 there. We will now produce an income statement for every company within the database. Okay, so here we have the Canada company right here. We go to the next page, we got the Mexico, and then we'll scroll through, and then we'll get to the very last page where we have all the companies combined. Okay, so it went and produced the 4 pages for us. Page 1 was Canada, and then it was Mexico, then U.S., and then all companies combined. Okay, so let me just recap what we saw there. And so we was able to take companies and produce 1 for each page, go across companies. Now, financials is the only report type right now that crosses companies. Ad hoc is just for the company you're in, but financials are set up so they actually cross companies, and you can get all your reporting of all your companies from one company. It's kind of a consolidation process there for you. All right, so that's, again, fairly high level over financial reports. There's a lot of power there and a lot of things you can do. Just want to highlight, if you use an account schedule, that's great because Pivotier will bring them in, allow you to leverage them, and pick up those account schedule definitions. Otherwise, you can use chart account layouts, just dump data based on dimensions. Okay. With dimensions, Pivotier will go against any dimension in your database, whether it's a global or non-global. You're not limited to just 4 dimensions like you would in typically in an account schedule. You do not have to set up analysis views. Pivotier, even if you're using an account schedule that looks an analysis view, Pivotier doesn't care. We will still use our base view. We have a Pivotier GL view that will pick up all those dimensions. Okay. If you want to use analysis views, Pivotier will still leverage them. If you look on any report definition here, you can pick an analysis view that it would report off instead of the Pivotier view. But you still have that flexibility, leverage all the base NAV functionality, and have all that there as well. Okay, so what we've looked at so far is we've looked at ad hoc, we've gone over financial reports, and now what we're going to do is step over into the IT side, which is the Visual Studio piece. Okay. We're only going to spend just a few minutes on this. Don't want to spend too long. But this is the development of these reports is technical. So we want to talk about that first. So when I show you how these reports are developed, I don't want to lose anybody and say, oh, that's too technical. Yes, I understand. This is where a developer piece would come in, and someone with little reporting services experience would be able to write these reports very easy. We bridge that gap and make it a whole lot easier for those developers. But what I'd like to focus on after that is the types of reports we can get out of the system once we've had them defined. So we're going to go right into the Visual Studio reports here. Okay, and we are going to take a look at, let's start with this balance sheet report. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run this report to show you what it looks like when we run it. Okay, so here we have a standard balance sheet. It's obviously a lot different than the standard NAV balance sheet that you'd see or something you'd get from the account schedule. We've got some asset grouping here. So we have that here, and then down below here on the second page we've got the liabilities and equities. Okay, added a chart up here which gives us some information up here and which we see. Now what I want to do is show you how this report was designed. Again, this is a Visual Studio Report Designer, and if you've done this before, this will look very familiar. Otherwise, it'll may just look like a bunch of gibberish to you. So I click Design on the report. There's some basic setup that Pivotier uses, but the main portion right here is the layout. Okay, so I click Design up here. And this is what the report design looks like today. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. We've listed how we want the fields, how we want to format and everything. You did see a key performance indicator on there. I believe for some reason I hid this, so I can say, hey, I want to show that now when we run that report, and we'll see the little KPI box pop up. And so the great thing here is I can do all my report design here. I've got a full data set. I've got everything. I can preview the report, do everything, and make sure it is all going to work. Once I'm happy with it as the developer, I close it. It's going to say, do you want to save that? I'll say yes. Come back here and say, yep, I want to import that new design because I was able to show that box, and then I'm done. I go tell the user, your report's out there. They say, okay, I'm going to rerun the new balance sheet. Yep. As of 2011, let's see it. Oh, now I've got the little KPI indicator box. Okay, put that on there, and I see all the rest of my information. Okay, so this is the ability to put all these reports out here. Once you hit this Visual Studio Report Designer, the sky's the limit. I mean, we can almost do any type of report in this piece. As you saw in ad hoc and financial reports, they're fairly structured, and they're structured for a reason. just to make them pretty straightforward and easy to use. But again, once we come here, I mean, it's way open. We can really design any type of report. We've got examples in our system of invoices, purchase documents, stuff like that. The one thing, as I said before, is we can really do anything within that Visual Studio environment. Okay. So again, that's a fairly high-level view of what the Visual Studio Designer is. So what I want to show you now is the last piece. If you purchase the Pivotier suite, which is basically all three areas together, it's the Biz, IT, and Web, you automatically get about 80 predefined reports. Okay, so anything that says X Plus will come with the suite. If not, there's a whole bunch of, there's just a handful, like five or so reports in each area of sample reports. But if you purchase the whole suite, you get anything that says X Plus. So that's all these financial reports. And these reports in this Visual Studio are meant to be out of the box for you, meaning you just install Pivotier, you run them, and then they work. Okay? There shouldn't be a whole lot of report design. You should get a valid balance sheet out of it right out of the box. That's configured just like this one. So there's a couple great looking reports that we have out here. So for example, this income statement by month, a lot of people really like this one. We're going to run it for 2010 year. So we'll go ahead and show you this one. So this one takes the whole 2010 year, fiscal year, and drops it out, produces my income statement monthly, automatically for me, and then adds the balance. It charts the revenue against my expense up across in the chart for all 12 months out here visually to see where was my revenue above expenses or vice versa. But we have all the different information. We've added additional calculations in here for gross profit percentages within the calculation of the report already for you. Okay, so great report, the ability to have out there. What's great about all these reports as well is if you want to design one very similar, this shows you how to do certain things. We've got an aged AR report, which works really well. The other one users really like is we have this cash projection report. So we go ahead and run this. We can run it for 2011, contact detail use. Yep. Okay, so we'll run it with those options. Okay, so this is more of a projection report. So beginning balance on this is everything prior to January 1 of 2011. What was the balance in my bank? This is what come in January, and then this is what my ending balance should be at the end of this period. So anything in future means after January. Okay, so in customer collections, looked like I had 822 of remaining AR in January. If everything goes well, I'll collect the 1.1 million, and then everything that's due past January is 653,000. And then here's my vendor payments, which are subtracted out. So if everything falls into place, this would be my final cash balance if everything happened as projected. If I want to look at the details of that, I can expand out, and I'll see all my customers, what they should pay me in each of the months. And I now see that the water department here is the one that owes me the 820 prior to January. Okay. All right, so some of the other financial reports that users typically really like is a detailed trial balance. Okay, so we do a detailed trial balance by global dimension 1 and 2 out of the box here. So if I run it for the month of January, okay, we always do global 1 and 2, that's these two. So for account, my cash account, no dimension, this is what happened. And then so a cash account for admin, this is what happened in there, and then prod, and then sales, and all the rest of the information down below. Shows you the debits and credits and the net change for that period. And I ran it just for the period of January. You can expand that period. Again, great out-of-the-box report to balance with and have your information there. Now I'm going to come down into some sales reports because there's there's two other types of reports that we use. They're either called trend reports or comparative reports. Okay, so a comparative report is, if it doesn't say trend, it's a comparative report. So this customer sales is a comparative report. So I'm going to run it for, we'll leave it for the month of January here and show you what a comparative report looks like. Okay, so the current period is the period I ran it for. Okay, and this is for the same period in the previous year in the variance. So I can say, based on last year, what was my difference? So my variance percentage, and then it has year-to-date totals for me. Okay, and then we show who our top 10 customers are up top here. All right, so if we take that same report and we do a customer trend analysis, okay, and we go ahead and publish this, we're actually going to publish this for 2010. Okay, because we're going to compare, we're going to do a trend across the whole year. I want to see what happened. Okay, now it'll take those top 10 customers and trend them across the year for us, and then it'll trend them down below as well. Okay, so they data them. This is what they did in January, February, and we can see what sales they had across every month, and then a final total of their sales for the whole year. Okay, so this is the three main types of reports within that we're seeing in here. We saw the financials, different financials, trend reports, and then we've got the comparative reports. Okay, so as we look down here, there's a whole list of different types of reports, and so that same sales report is divided out by different things. Okay, we do it by state, and then we do it by territory, by dimension. What's great about when you do the one by dimension is you pick which dimension you want to compare it by. Okay, we're going to use the area dimension, or I can pick any of my dimensions and compare that, and then go ahead and run those to the viewer. Okay, so now it shows me my customers by area. Okay, and it groups them right here: Europe North, and then the different people. Okay, so again, it's a very dynamic report out of the box. Again, you can just use this right out of the box and have the ability to run and see all those reports. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about here is the thing that basically drives a lot of this reporting, is the ability to create queries. Queries are great because they allow you to pick and tell Pivotier what data you want to see on some of these. It's the basis for ad hoc reports and a lot of the Visual Studio reports that we saw. So if we look at this customer query that we're picking up here, we're going to see that the user can say, I want to pull data from any of these tables, okay? And on each one of these tables, I have listed out the fields that I may want to report on, okay? And so it's really nice. You give the user a consolidated list of fields that they can use for the reports, okay? Rather than give them the whole customer table, which has like 200 fields, you know, we only want to see maybe these 10 to 15 fields. And so you can set up these queries and allow you to produce those and have the ability to take a look at them in a easy-to-use manner. Okay, so I'm going to go one more step further, and I said queries was the last thing, but I have one more thing I want to talk about, and that's security. Because security is very important. If we look on any report, there is this publish to folder option. And through security, this helps us limit which reports a user can see in particular reports. So this report is published to the samples folder. I mean, through security, any user that has access to the sample folder will see this report. Okay? If I don't have access to the sample folder, I will not see this report. So I won't even know it exists. So you could have 500 reports listed in your database, but a user may only see 10 of them, because through security, they're only allowed to see those 10. Then the next step we take as well is we respect all the NAV security permissions, which this is reasons, let's say the customer table. Let's say I did not have read access to the customer table. It would then give me an error saying you do not have read access to the customer table if I tried to run this report. So we respect all the NAV security roles and permissions. Okay. So that's the demo part and all the different things we've seen within Pivotier. Before we get into the Q&A portion, I want to talk about pricing. Okay. If we go back to, well, I'm going to jump back to the slides. Okay. I'm missing a slide here. Okay, so I'll just talk about pricing. So we license per NAV database. Okay, so if you have just one NAV database in-house, and so you just have to purchase one Jet Pivotier license. And that will give us and you can run unlimited users in that database on the reporting, okay, as long as you have licensed NAV users, yes. But unlimited users using Pivotier and unlimited users running Pivotier, and write an unlimited number of reports. So whether you write one report or 500 reports, it's all the same. It's just a one flat fee. Whether you have one of your users or all of your users using, writing, designing, running the reports, it's all the same fee. Okay, so it's a very flat database structure, pricing model per database, and very easy to use. Okay, so that is basically the high-level overview of what I want to talk about. Hopefully you've seen some great-looking reports and some of the different things that you would like to see. If you want more information, as I said, about Jet Pivotier, I would like to point you to your partner. They can get lots of great information off of from us for you, or they've got a lot of great information. The other thing you can do is if you go out to the web, and if you went out to pivotier.com, you're going to see our website here. There's a lot of great information that explains the different product breakdowns for you. We've got a knowledge base, customer support, tutorial videos. You can go out and watch a bunch of these training videos that we have out there on how to use Pivotier in depth, how to install it, set it up. All that information's out there for you. So with that, Tom, I want to turn the time back to you to see if we have any additional questions, anything come through yet, and I want to open it up. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to go ahead and answer any of those questions for you.
Thanks, Ron. So we do have a few questions, and I would ask anyone else if there's a questions tab, if you'll type your questions in, then I'll ask Ron to answer them. The first question that came in, can you give kind of a high-level distinction between Jet Reports, Pivotier, and Jet Enterprise?
Yes, I can. So high level, what we're talking about, what Jet Enterprise is a data warehousing solution. Okay, so it uses like cubes in a data warehouse to stage your data and everything, and it deals with measures and historical data and stuff like that. Jet Pivotier is based purely for what we call like daily reporting, transactional reporting. Like I want to see what was posted to my GL, or I want to see customer interactions. And as you know, any of the Jet Essentials or Jet Enterprise, that reporting interface is built inside Excel. So to write your reports and everything you do there, you go into Excel to write those reports. Some people like to not have to go to Excel to do their reports or go external for the reporting. Jet Pivotier, as you saw, is embedded inside the NAV interface, uses pure SQL straight against the SQL database, and we get a lot of performance benefits out of that. Okay. Again, Jet Enterprise data warehousing solution. This is more operational reports. Is what you're looking at. We have a lot of customers that have both. Use Jet Pivotier for the daily, day-to-day stuff, and use Jet Enterprise for the more BI things, trends, stuff like that over periods, add different measures and stuff. Works very well, and they interact very well with each other. Very different solutions and solve different needs.
So next question, how much per database?
So the pricing is broke out. I had a pricing slide here. Let me just, I don't know why my pricing slide got hid. So let's unhide this. Okay. Okay. So see this pricing. So if you want just the biz piece, it's $5,000. The IT is $3,000, and the license the web piece is $2,000. So you break those out, or you can just license the whole suite for $9,000. Okay. Again, this is just per database, no seat requirements, developer license, additional object cost. This is just a straight up pricing for you.
And then if they already own some Pivotier, is there discount for upgrading? Or
Yes, if you already own some Pivotier, we will look at that. That's the beauty of our sales team. We can work with your partner and see what we can do for you. I can't guarantee anything. That's the sales side, and they will take care of that for you. But I know they've been very good to people, and we'll make sure you're satisfied.
Next question is, in terms of the versions that are supported, if they're on an older database but they have 5.0 executables, is that good enough, or does it need to be a 5.0 or more recent database?
If they're on, they have to be on, well, they don't have to be. Let me just tell you, I have installed Pivotier in a 4.0 database on 5.0 executables, okay, and that will work. I will need to help whoever does that because there's a slight modification I have to do in the code unit to integrate with account schedules because NAV changed a couple field names from account schedule layouts from 4.0 to 5.0, okay. But I can help anyone do that. It's about a 10-15 minute exercise, and I'd help anyone get into that. If you look at our documentation, officially we support 5.0 and above, but again, we've got users running a 4.0 database, and it works just great.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? That is the questions that were in the queue. Ron, any closing comments?
No, I think I've rambled on enough for everybody, hopefully. I just want to tell everybody thank you for taking the time. We're very excited here at Jet Reports that we have this offering for you. We're growing fast here, and it's been very successful with what we're doing and where we're going. And so thank you, everybody, for your time.
Well, thanks to everyone for attending today. We will be posting this recorded presentation up to the website. Should be there in about an hour. And we wish you all a great day, and thank you for your business.